Melania throws Donald under the bus on Epstein files. Okay, I need you to stay with me here because what I'm about to walk you through is something that could fundamentally change the course of Donald Trump's second term. The First Lady of the United States has made a catastrophic legal error, and I'm not using that word lightly. Melania Trump, in her attempt to bully and silence critics, has now opened a door that Donald Trump desperately wanted to keep closed. A door that leads directly to sworn depositions, subpoena power, and detailed questions about their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what happened. Author Michael Wolff, the man who wrote Fire and Fury, the man who has been a biographer to both Donald Trump and Rupert Murdoch, the man who spent years interviewing Jeffrey Epstein himself, has filed a lawsuit against the First Lady. And this lawsuit gives him something incredibly powerful: the legal authority to subpoena both Melania Trump and Donald Trump, to put them under oath, to demand their text messages, their emails, their communications, and to ask them on the record every single question about their decades-long relationship with the most notorious sex trafficker in modern American history. Think about what that means. If you care about understanding what actually happened between the Trumps and Jeffrey Epstein, you need to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications because this story is developing rapidly, and you're going to want to know every detail as it unfolds. Let me take you back to October 15th, 2025. That's when Melania Trump's attorney, a man named Alejandro Brito, sent a threatening letter to Michael Wolff. The letter demanded that Wolff immediately retract and apologize for statements he had made about Melania's connections to Jeffrey Epstein. The letter threatened him with a lawsuit seeking over $1 billion in damages if he didn't comply by October 21st at 5 p.m. Let me read you what that letter said. Quote, "This law firm serves as litigation counsel for the First Lady of the United States of America, Mrs. Melania Trump. Please direct all future correspondence relating to this matter to my attention." That last part is important. Remember it. The letter went on to list the supposedly defamatory statements: that Melania Trump was very involved in the Epstein social circle, that she was introduced to Donald Trump through that circle, that Epstein knew her well. The letter called all of this false, defamatory, and inflammatory. Now, here's what you need to understand about Michael Wolff. This is not some random blogger they could intimidate into silence. Michael Wolff interviewed Jeffrey Epstein extensively before his death in 2019. He has hours and hours of recorded conversations with Epstein. He's seen photographs that Epstein showed him. He knows things that haven't been made public. And when Melania Trump's lawyers threatened him with a billion-dollar lawsuit, Michael Wolff didn't back down. He didn't retract. He didn't apologize. On October 21st, the very deadline they gave him, Michael Wolff filed his own lawsuit against Melania Trump in Manhattan Supreme Court. Stay with me here because this is where the legal strategy gets brilliant. Wolff filed what's called an anti-SLAPP lawsuit. SLAPP stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. These are laws designed to protect journalists and critics from wealthy, powerful people who use the threat of expensive litigation to silence free speech. By filing first, Wolff flipped the entire dynamic. Now Melania Trump has to prove her defamation claims have merit. And in the meantime, Wolff gains something invaluable: subpoena power. Here's what Wolff said after filing. "To be perfectly honest, I'd like nothing better than to get Donald Trump and Melania Trump under oath in front of a court reporter and actually find out all of the details of their relationship with Epstein. Think about what this means for Donald Trump. His wife threatened a journalist to keep him quiet about Epstein. That journalist called her bluff and sued her instead. Now that journalist has the legal authority to drag both of them into depositions and demand answers about the very thing they wanted to suppress. That is how Melania Trump threw Donald Trump under the bus. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Melania Trump is running, she's hiding, she's evading service. For those unfamiliar with legal procedure, let me explain why this matters. After you file a lawsuit, you have to serve the defendant with the legal papers. It's a formal process that starts the clock on the case. Without service, the case can't move forward. Michael Wolff has been trying to serve Melania Trump for months, and she has been actively avoiding it. First, Wolff's team tried to serve her through her attorney. Remember, that threatening letter said, quote, "Please direct all future correspondence to my attention." So they went to Alejandro Brito's office in Florida to serve him. And what did he say? He refused to accept service. The very lawyer who demanded all correspondence come through him suddenly claimed he wasn't representing her for this matter, so they hired a professional process server. That server went to Trump Tower, and here's what happened. The staff at Trump Tower said they would throw the papers in the garbage. They literally said they would not accept service. But they did confirm something significant. They confirmed that Melania Trump lives at Trump Tower, not the White House. Trump Tower. Let that sink in. The First Lady of the United States does not live in the White House. She lives in a Manhattan high-rise, and she's using that location to dodge legal papers. If you're finding this valuable, hit that like button right now because this story is about to get significantly more complicated. Melania's lawyers have now filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, claiming she was never properly served. The filing argues that the papers were handed to a doorman at Trump Tower, which they claim is, quote, not Mrs. Trump's residence. So which is it? Does she live there or doesn't she? Trump Tower security confirmed she lives there, but her lawyers claim she doesn't. This contradiction is going to matter enormously as this case moves forward. Now let me connect some dots here. Michael Wolff isn't just any journalist. Before he wrote Fire and Fury, before he became Donald Trump's most persistent chronicler, he was going to be Jeffrey Epstein's biographer. Epstein reached out to Wolff in 2015 and began sharing information. They met multiple times. Epstein showed him things. Here's what Wolff has said about those conversations. Epstein used to bring out a set of photographs, about a dozen snapshots, and among them, Wolff says he remembers at least 3. 2 of them showing topless girls sitting in Trump's lap around Epstein's swimming pool, and one showing a stain on the front of Trump's pants with 3 or 4 girls laughing and pointing at it. Wolff says he saw those photographs. He says they existed, and he believes they were kept in Epstein's safe, which was emptied by the FBI. Now, I want to be clear about something. These are Wolff's claims. The photographs haven't been publicly released. But what matters for this lawsuit is that Wolff will now have the legal authority to ask about them under oath, to subpoena records, to demand discovery, and the questions won't stop at photographs. There are serious questions about Melania Trump's past that have never been adequately answered. Questions about her immigration to the United States, questions about how she met Donald Trump, questions about who facilitated that meeting and what their connections were. Let me walk you through the timeline. In the mid-1990s, Melania Knaus, as she was then known, came to the United States on a work visa. She was represented by a modeling agency run by a man named Paolo Zampoli. Zampoli says he brought Melania to New York. He says he secured her H-1B visa. And in 1998, at a Fashion Week party he hosted at the Kit Kat Club in Manhattan, he introduced her to Donald Trump. Here's where it gets interesting. In March 2025, Donald Trump appointed Paolo Zampoli as special envoy for global partnerships. That's right. The man who introduced Melania to Donald Trump, the man who facilitated her entry into the United States, now has an official position in the Trump administration. But there are questions about Zampoli's connections that deserve scrutiny. Investigative journalists have documented his ties to the broader world that included Epstein, the modeling industry of the 1990s, and the intersection of powerful men and young women that characterized that era. And then there's the matter of Melania's credentials. For years, Melania Trump's official biography claimed she had obtained a degree in architecture and design from a university in Slovenia. The 2016 Republican National Convention program repeated this claim. Her personal website stated it, but CBS News checked the official public records of the University of Ljubljana. Melania Trump is not listed as having graduated with a degree. Journalists in Slovenia confirmed she attended for 1 year and then dropped out to pursue modeling. When this was exposed, Melania's website was taken down entirely. Her Twitter statement said it was removed because it didn't accurately reflect her, quote, current business and professional interests. That was a misdirection. It was removed because it didn't accurately reflect her past. In a 2013 deposition related to a lawsuit about her skincare business, Melania Trump stated under oath that she had graduated with a bachelor's degree in architecture. That statement was false. Now, I'm not bringing this up to be petty about educational credentials. I'm bringing it up because it speaks to a pattern of carefully constructed narratives about Melania Trump's background that don't hold up to scrutiny. And those are exactly the kinds of questions Michael Wolff wants to ask in Discovery. How did Melania really come to the United States? What were the circumstances of her visa? How did she meet Donald Trump? What was the nature of their relationship in those early years? What did she know about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein? What social circles did they move in together? These questions matter because the current administration has been desperate to suppress information about Epstein. Just 2 days ago, on January 30th, 2026, the Department of Justice finally released over 3 million pages of Epstein-related documents. This came more than a month past the deadline set by Congress. The release included more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, in a remarkable statement, said that some of the documents contain, quote, untrue and sensationalist claims against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. He preemptively called those claims unfounded and false. Think about what that means. The Department of Justice, in the very act of releasing documents about Jeffrey Epstein, felt the need to issue a defensive statement about Donald Trump. That's not normal. That's not what transparency looks like. And here's what we know from the files that have been released. There are thousands of references to Trump, emails between Epstein and others discussing Trump's policies and politics, a 2012 message asking about going to Mar-a-Lago instead of Epstein's island, communications between Epstein and Steve Bannon about Trump's Federal Reserve policies. The relationship was real. It was deep. It lasted for years. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how far this is reaching because this information matters. Let me bring this back to Michael Wolff's lawsuit. In the emails released by House Democrats in November 2025, we saw communications between Epstein and Wolff from December 2015. In one exchange, Wolff suggested that if Trump denied their relationship, Epstein could use that denial against him later. "I think you should let him hang himself," Wolff wrote. The Trump administration seized on this to attack Wolff as a conspirator. But what they're missing is the context. These were journalist source communications. Wolff was gathering information for his reporting, and the substance of what Epstein told Wolff, the details about Trump's relationship with the financier, those haven't been refuted. Epstein told Wolff that Trump and Melania first had sex on his private jet. Epstein told Wolff about their social entanglement. Epstein showed Wolff photographs. And now, because Melania Trump decided to threaten Michael Wolff with a billion-dollar lawsuit, all of this may come out in sworn testimony. Hunter Biden, who received a similar threatening letter from Melania's lawyers, said it perfectly. His response was, "Please do sue me." He understood that a lawsuit would give him the right to depose Melania, to subpoena everyone in their circle, and to seek discovery about the genesis of the Trump-Melania relationship and their connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Melania never sued Hunter Biden either. There's a pattern here. Melania Trump threatens, she bullies, she sends billion-dollar demand letters, but when someone calls her bluff, she runs. Now she's running from Michael Wolff. She's hiding behind Secret Service protection and claiming she can't be served. She's filed motions to dismiss claiming improper service, while simultaneously having her security confirm she lives at the very address where service was attempted. It's not going to work. Courts have mechanisms for this. When someone evades service, when they use their position to dodge legal accountability, the court can deem the lawsuit served. Michael Wolff's legal team will exhaust their options, document every attempt, and then ask the judge to let the case proceed. And once it proceeds, the discovery begins. Let me leave you with 3 things to understand about why this matters. First, this lawsuit represents the most direct legal path to sworn testimony about the Trump-Epstein relationship. The DOJ has been releasing heavily redacted documents with defensive statements. Congressional Democrats have been releasing emails that the administration dismisses. But depositions are different. Under oath with penalty of perjury, the Trumps would have to answer questions directly. Second, Melania Trump created this situation herself. She didn't have to threaten Michael Wolff. She didn't have to send that billion-dollar demand letter. She could have ignored his reporting the way the Trumps ignore most criticism. Instead, she provoked a fight with someone who had both the resources and the motivation to fight back. And in doing so, she handed him the legal tools to investigate everything. Third, this is happening in the context of an administration that promised transparency about Epstein and has delivered the opposite. Trump campaigned on releasing all the files. Then his Justice Department missed deadlines, applied heavy redactions, and issued preemptive defensive statements. The American people were promised answers. They've received spin. What happens next depends on whether the courts allow this lawsuit to proceed. If they do, Michael Wolff will begin discovery. He'll subpoena documents, he'll demand depositions, and he'll ask the questions that the Trumps have been avoiding for years. Democracy doesn't defend itself. It depends on people asking hard questions and demanding honest answers. The courts exist for exactly this purpose, to ensure that no one, not even the First Lady of the United States, is above accountability. Michael Wolff is pursuing this case. The legal process is underway. And somewhere in Trump Tower, Melania Trump is hoping that if she hides long enough, it will all go away. It won't. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on because this story is far from finished. The lawsuit is proceeding. The Epstein files are still being analyzed. And the questions about what the Trumps knew and when they knew it are only getting louder. I'll be watching, and so should you.